This is the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast with your host, Kevin Murray.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. We've got another incredible guest on this episode from Late Round Fantasy. It's David Kitchen. Welcome to the show, my man.
Thanks. It's an honor to be here, a privilege to be here. I enjoyed getting to meet you at the Fantasy Football Expo, and looking forward to our time together.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun meeting you at the Expo. Obviously, it's a great event. We'll talk a little bit about it in a little bit. But yeah, I know, anything late round, I'm a huge fan of everything you guys are doing over there. Obviously, JJ's been doing some awesome stuff over the years, so it's exciting to hear your background, kind of how you ended up where you're at right now. Obviously, you're the COO at Late Round Fantasy. What does that role entail for you?
That role entails right now being JJ's right-hand man. At first I said number 2. He said, "No, you're my number 1." So I help with the operational side. I help with the marketing and the partner side as well. We worked on getting our newsletter game going this year. So it's been awesome. I've been with JJ for almost a year now, and it really is a dream job. I think I have the best job on earth. So it's been great.
I love it. Now, from a consumer perspective, there's some people out there that don't know what Late Round Fantasy is all about.
Yeah.
What is it that you think really makes the listeners, the viewers appreciate everything that the JJ's built over the years, and obviously what you're a part of?
Yeah, I mean, I help from the operational and the marketing side. It was easy for me to basically jump into this role because really the only content that I was listening to for fantasy for season long was the Late Round podcast. And JJ's been a friend for a while. And so with the podcast, it's short form, just intense as far as analytics and data goes. And now we've added a show. He's added the Perspectives episode. We have Becoming a Best Ball Bro in the summer. Those are more long form, but it is just data-driven fantasy analysis. And that's the bulk of it. JJ is, I'm not just saying this because he's my boss. Again, I listened to him before, so I'm not just saying will I get bonus points? Probably. Yes, I will. But he was the guy I would listen to because he is good at a mic. And you know this as someone who has a podcast, it's tough to have a solo podcast. It's tough to do something to the extent where you're doing it every week and it's just you. And there's no one to fill any gaps. It's just you, and you have to produce content for people that have, they've got their needs. They're driving on their way to work. They are doing something. They're going across town. And if they can get that information during that time, that's where you fill that void that they have. So we do that. We also have the Patreon for our members. We have a membership platform, and then we have a prospect guide that we do in the spring, and that's the rookies, the year 2 players, and then we have the draft guide that we release in the summer.
Yeah, incredible products. Obviously, the draft guide, the prospect guide. Unmatched, like such great content. But I've been a huge fan of JJ's work for years, just like you described. Yeah. I mean, it's so action-packed, actionable information. It's short, sweet. It fits perfectly in the podcast mix. I think a lot of people might have 1+ podcast that they listen to. They might listen to 2 or 3. But Late Round always fits right in. If you have 2 that you consider like these are your favorites, you always can get Late Round in there as well. So it's easy to just bring that into the mix. And like you said, like you described, the information is so, it's delivered so well. Like JJ, you say it's deep, analytics, but JJ's delivery is super smooth with it. So it's, I highly recommend it to anybody out there looking for a podcast to get actionable information Late Round. And like you described, those products are top notch. So highly recommended. Anything coming out of Late Round. Obviously, we won't talk about you here. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about your background. We'll start with just your background with sports. I know you're a Titans fan. Is that right?
Yeah. I'm a rare Nashville Unicorn. So born and
Okay.
raised here in Nashville. So
Nice.
the Lovable Losers. I've always cheered for Vandy. They're actually doing well this year. So
Good.
first time in 80 something years, born and raised here, grew up going to games, and the Titans, obviously. And then we didn't really have a Major League Baseball team here. So the two options, were WGN or TBS, and I chose the Cubs. So grew up cheering for the Cubs, Titans, and Vandy, and that will teach you humility quick. I've always enjoyed sports, playing sports. Was a high school basketball coach for a while before I dove into the world of fantasy sports full time. And now I'm getting back into that with three daughters of my own. And fantasy sports started for me in 1999 with one of the Yahoo basketball leagues. Being there in class, in computer class, someone said, let's do a fantasy basketball league on Yahoo. So that's where it started, and it has taken me here. I love fantasy sports. I love everything about it, from the camaraderie to all the niche games, to see how it has evolved into what it is now. It's just an amazing platform, and that's why I think I have the best job on earth.
That's great. No, I started playing in 95 with like a sporting news challenge.
Yeah.
So I totally get where you're coming from. My home league was pretty much founded in chiropractic school, where we would flood the computer lab, draft teams every season. So I get what you're saying with bringing in more than football, like playing fantasy basketball. It's always fun to see, people that found fantasy for the first time with a different sport other than football. They exist out there, and you've seen the change of the game over the years. I love all that. So with your childhood though, like, who are some of your favorite players all time? And I will say also, when you said the TBS thing and picking the
WGN,
Cubs, WGN, I was a Seattle Mariners fan.
Yeah.
You love Griffey and everything,
Griffey,
but before that, there wasn't anything really. So I loved the Braves for a few years because of that exact same thing.
Yeah,
and
they were pretty good by that. Like, I chose poorly at that point because all the Braves years with Maddox and Avery.
It was a fun run.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, good for them.
For you, who are your favorite players growing up?
I mean, I grew up in the MJ era,
Yeah.
So Jordan was the guy who I had, all the memorabilia that he had, the shoes. I would try to save up for whatever. I even had some baseball cards of his back in the day. So the Jordan era, the Dream Team era, and then from the football side of things, being a Titans fan in the late night when they first came to town, it was Eddie George, Steve McNair. Like, those were the two guys that we love to cheer for. So those were the guys that I kind of grew up with. Obviously, like, you have Rice and Aikman and Irving and those guys, but for me, being the local kid after that, it was all about Eddie George and Aaron McNair.
Yeah, quality players for sure. So when I bring up biggest heartbreak, as a sports fan,
I saw this question. I was like, this seems like a layup. Because like in the same season that we had the Music City Miracle, for Buffalo fans, that was painful for them. Yeah. But we had the game against the Rams where it was, I think Kevin Dyson stopped on the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
So that was rough. I didn't really realize. It was like, okay, it's fine, whatever. I didn't really realize the significance of that until, like, hey, we haven't been back to a Super Bowl since. You're young. I was in high school, so I thought, we'll be back. We haven't. So that's definitely the biggest heartbreak, is having that 1 yard line spot.
Yeah. For me, I think of 1 yard, with Marshawn Lynch not getting punched in for a back-to-back Super Bowl, but having won the previous season, I'll take it. It'd be much harder never to have won and drop short on the, stop short on the 1 yard line. But talk about favorite moments. Like, what's your all-time favorite moment as a sports fan?
All-time favorite moment as a sports fan is probably when MJ won that last championship of his. I mean, that was just like, as a sports fan growing up, being in that peak era for me, that was it. I was such a huge MJ fan. I mean, it was just like, you couldn't go anywhere without seeing him. He did all the commercials. I really feel like for my daughters, they're in that similar era with Caitlin Clark. There's a lot of similarities between Jordan and Clark as far as like how much they are attached to the sport. And so I feel like, my daughters have a Caitlin Clark basketball. And the way that I felt about Jordan wanting to get everything that he had out there, Gatorade, Wheaties, whatever it was, they're kind of like that with Caitlin Clark. But yeah, that was probably the all-time favorite moment. That series against the Jazz was great.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Repeating the three-peat for the second time and kind of closing it out. Yeah, it was pretty special for me too. I'm a huge MJ guy. So with fantasy, you mentioned 1999. So early on, what was it that hooked you with the game? What was it that made you fall in love with it?
Yeah, I think it was the camaraderie. That's kind of why I wanted to get into the industry, because as a guy, we started our first, my home league of record, whatever you want to call it now. Like, we started it while in college, and during the spring months, we wouldn't keep up as much. But when it came time for fantasy, I would produce, like, I was commissioner at the early years of our league, so I would produce like a 6-page document every week, and everything would be just revolving around the league. And so it's such just a cornerstone of so many friendships out there, or rivalries, however you want to say it, friendship, rivalries, frenemies, that I recognize just the impact that it had on me, and that it could impact others as well.
I love it. So that home league, that's still in
existence? We are in year 20.
Okay, nice.
So year 19, I won years 1 and 2.
Okay.
And after that, I would make the playoffs most years. I think I've only missed the playoffs 2 years. But I went on a dry run. And when you're in the industry and you don't win your home league for 17 years, 16 years, the jokes start flowing.
Yeah.
And so, it's every time that they would reference the league, like they understood the trigger point for me. So every time they would reference something back in even the hyperbole with the 90s or early 2000s, the early Bush administration, whatever, they would reference the last time I won a championship.
I love it.
Every time they could. And so it was like this huge burden on my back. And last year I won the league, and it was just like, it was better than those first 2 championships, because I've got the trophy in the background. You can kind of see it right there. But it was finally, that burden had been lifted, my biggest win, and now we can reset the clock.
It's a new era
for what's next. Yeah, for sure.
A new era. I love it. So any fun home league traditions, things you guys have done over the years that just make it a little extra special?
Yeah, well, at first we did like a combine. We had a combine, and we would get our draft order picked by then, all sorts of crazy competitions. We try to go somewhere at least once every 2 years on location. So we've been to the beach multiple times. We went to Fort Worth a couple years ago. That was fun. And we got Gatlinburg here in the mountains. We've been to a couple of times. So we try to go somewhere on location that 3rd or 4th week of August. And that's our weekend together. Even if we're at the home league or at home here in Nashville and people fly in, like, that's our weekend. And everybody knows that is our weekend that we get together. Now it's an auction league. So we don't have like the combine or the trophy or the toilet bowl, whatever it is. Yeah. But we still do drafting on location, being in the same room, even though like we're on Sleeper on our apps doing the auction draft, it still is fun. So we used to do like a draft board. I used to print out the draft board. I had my own draft board printing company back in the day. So I would print out a draft board for our league specifically. Nice. with all the labels and such. And now it's all technology.
That it happens, but that's dedication. I'd love to hear that. Who's the biggest rivalry in a fantasy league for you? Whether it's your home league or an industry league, who's that one person you just can't lose to?
Yeah, I think I've got 2 guys in my home league, and one was he helped me start Fantasy Insiders back in the day. He was a co-founder. His name is Ben. He's big into college sports, and he thinks he knows everything. So it's good to have, like, right now, even we still have this debate because he didn't like Cam Ward for the Titans. And so he tries to rub it in my face. I try to rub it in his face that he's a big Georgia fan, didn't take Brock Bowers as a keeper 2 years ago. So I beat him with Brock Bowers 40-point week last week. So I had to just rub it in his face. The other guy is Jeff. His name is Jeff Johnson. I brought him on to the SiriusXM fantasy show that I used to host, and he was my co-host for a while. So both those guys know probably the most about fantasy. And so it's good when people think they know everything to beat them. So those are the two, on the schedule. Make sure we got to win that.
I love it. You got to have rivalries in fantasy for sure.
Yes.
How about settings, formats, like anything that you love specifically? I know you probably like best ball, I would imagine, but
yes.
What settings and formats do you enjoy the most in fantasy?
Yeah, with my DFS background, when best ball kind of happened with, it first really started for me with the MFL 10s, my fantasy league 10s way back in the day. And I remember I was part of the DraftKings pros team at that point, and Adam Levitan was like, we should start our own best ball league, our own best ball company. But there were so many like legal hurdles to that where like, I will let somebody else do it. And luckily someone else did. Yeah. But I started up the Dynasty League, and it was a best ball super flex tight end premium dynasty league, and it's been awesome. And it's got a lot of the some of the guys that are in the stacked league. It's got Gretsch, Reeves, Rich Rebar is in it, JJ is in it, Dan Bach, Beer Makers Fan. All it's like half DFS and half season long guys, and it's fun because as soon as the season starts, you don't do anything to your team. You're not trading. You're not doing anything. It's hands off. You see what happens, and then what's we've got like Michael Leone from Establish the Run. He's been tanking for the past 10 years. I really think he's been tanking for 10 years, and he still is in tank mode. So it's a fun format, and it's fun for us to always kind of get together during the rookie drafts and the summer leagues to see where our teams are at.
That's awesome. And that's a good example. Like for anybody out there, in a home league or whatnot, you play in a couple leagues. It's fun to have a side league like best ball. It's a great like side league for a league that's interactive all season, where you can you get that going during the summertime and just let it play out, see what happens.
We have so many leagues like during the season. It's fun to still like follow along the best ball leagues, but know that you don't have to do anything. You're not missing out on anything. It is what it is. I also like the pronunciation is Otanu, but it's a Fangraphs league.
Okay.
And Peter Schinke invited me to play in that. There's a gentleman named Lars who was a fantasy OG, and he passed away. When he passed away, Peter asked me to fill a seat, and this was 6 or 7 years ago. But it's an auction Devy salary cap league, and it's been fun. It's been really fun, and so it's the only one I have. So I've got Jeremiah Smith right now, in my basically kind of my taxi spots. But every year, if they're in college, their price goes up $1. If they're in pros, their price goes up $5. And then you have arbitration, where you figure out you have a salary cap and you put that budget based on where you want to see it. There's a max. But so if someone's got a loaded team, everyone's going to put their max amount that they can on that team, so they can't keep as many players.
Love it. Yeah, a lot of different options out there. It's fun to hear about leagues like that. So for you, when you first started playing, can you rewind back and think about some of the analysts and people that you followed early on?
Yeah, it was. I was a big Matthew Berry fan, and Nate back then, when there were really the main thing going. Obviously there's Roto World, but I remember my first FSTA back then was in Chicago at a Cubs game, and I took a picture of the back of Matthew's head, and I sent it to the group chat, like, guess where I'm at, guess who this is, So he was definitely the person that I really looked forward to hearing him talk. And it was part of it was also just about the camaraderie that he had like on the podcast, and then having Stefania on there. Like it was a daily listen for me when fantasy was not my full-time job. So it was, I appreciated just being a fly on the wall for him talking seemingly to his friends about, the fantasy football scene.
Yeah, I mean, it's that entertainment value, of a podcast that's not a solo pod. Is such an important aspect of it, and obviously the 060 definitely has delivered over the years. Before and after, obviously TMR's departure. So when was it that you decided to like get more into the community in the industry? What's the timeline of your story? From back in the day.
Yeah, 2013, I started, I was playing daily fantasy sports when they first kind of came out. And actually it was from Matthew Barrett. He promoted a site called Draft Street. And the gentleman I mentioned earlier, Ben Pritchett, one of my rivals, was like, I'm playing on Draft Street. And he won. He went to some sort of live final tournament in that. So then I started playing. And I liked it, and I started playing more and more. So I won a tournament on a site called Draft Day, and I took that money and I bought the domain fantasysports.org. And I want it to be like an industry site. And so that is where my wife let me buy this huge printer for it. We put it in our kitchen at the time, and I had these big rolls of paper. I print up the kit. So we had draft kits, and I was doing on-demand draft kits. So people would submit their name of their league. Some were pretty out there. I was like, I don't know if I can print this. And then I would charge like an extra $5 if they wanted their team names in there. I'd print it out. I'd roll it up. I'd put the labels in there, and we'd ship it out. And so that was the first thing. I had a few shirts on there. And at that point, DFS was just starting to take off. And Dan Bach at Roto Grinders interviewed me for his morning podcast that he had. And afterwards, he was like, hey, we've been thinking about doing a show called Grinders Live. Would you want to be, the host of it? So I said yes. And from there, I hosted with a guy named Al Zeidenfeld back in the day, Smizzle, as people know. So Smizzle and I hosted that show. From there, I started a site called Fantasy Insiders. This is where I met JJ, because JJ used to come on our show. We had Evan Silva as a part of the crew. We call it the tree, because there were so many personalities at that time who are now like, just big time personalities. Michael Leone, Drew Dinkmeyer, all these guys that were, friends of the show, friends of Fantasy Insiders. And we were a DFS company as far as people would pay us for information. We had our projections. And from that, I got on to DraftKings as a DraftKings Pro. So I was a DraftKings Pro with Adam Levitan, Peter Jennings, Jonathan Bells, Andrew Wiggins, Drew Dinkmeyer, and Smiz. And so this was during peak DFS days. So DraftKings would fly us out I was going to Boston every Monday to host the Monday Night Sweat Show for DraftKings. Flew me out to the Bahamas a few times, Miami. And the funny part of it, unless you're my wife, is that like she didn't get to go on any of these vacations basically because she was pregnant during the time with multiple kids. So she never got to experience. She always wanted to go to Boston in the fall, and I was literally going there every Monday night.
Oh no!
So from there, experienced the highs, then later the lows of the industry when they went through their legal woes. And at that point, I sold Fantasy Insiders to Roto Grinders. Was with Roto Grinders all the way up from 2017 till last year, and that's when I joined JJ. Full circle, 10 years later, after I would have him on one of my shows, I was now joining him. So that's kind of me in the industry in a nutshell. And it's been a wild ride, but a rewarding ride as well.
That's incredible. So with the opportunity at late round, was that something that was in the works for a while? Was that something that you were like, this type of role? Was this what you're looking for a while, or did it kind of just come up naturally?
Yeah. So the world of Roto Grinders back in the day, it was like startup culture. And we had an office here in Nashville, and it was awesome. No, as far as like that period of life, we would just hang out there. And it was, I wouldn't say like a frat house, but it was like a sports house. And everyone, we'd get there later on in the day. We'd leave after games started later on in the night, but we would play all sorts of games during the day, event games, have all sorts of conversations about, any sort of sports topics that we had really strong feelings about. And so whenever Roto Grinders sold to the parent company that bought them, things changed, which happens, when a parent company buys a company, you can't stay a startup for forever. So basically things started being not as enjoyable, and they were laying off people left and right. And so I knew my time was coming, and it came. And when I did, I had this thing of, do I want to find a job outside of the fantasy industry or stay? And I had, 2 companies that I wanted to, if I were to stay in, I would work for. And those were the Ballers or Established to Run, because I love those guys. And when I talked to JJ, he was like, dude, you can't leave the industry. And he said, I've been thinking about you for this role for the past few years. And I was like, oh, like that piqued my interest. And so when you go from a position where you don't think, it's not that you don't matter, it's just like you don't feel like you're making any sort of difference. And then compare that to going to a company where it's just always been just one other person. And JJ is maxed out as being just JJ. So there are some things that he just could not get to. And being a part of the late round team, being a part of the late round community over the past year has just been awesome and so rewarding. So I can't say enough good things about just how things have transpired to get me to the place that I am here today.
I love it. I love it for you. I love it for JJ. I love it for Late Round, because again, I think it's a brand that is a big part of this fantasy community, and obviously the sky is the limit. What's been the most rewarding part of this whole journey for you?
Yeah, I think the most rewarding part again is just for the fantasy side of things is being able to feel like I'm not, like miserable. That doing something that I love, and I love the business side of fantasy sports, the business side of sports. So any sort of content or analysis, I'm going to leave that to the people that study it. And, that is their livelihood. That is what they are gifted at. For me, I enjoy being the host. I'm still the host of the Swolecast, which started back in the Evan Silva days. That's still running with Davis Maddock and Dan Gasper and Peter Overzet, who's just a shooting star now. Yeah, but it's just rewarding to do something that you love. And on the flip side of that, now like have flexibility to still be like a dad. Like that's big for me, is not sacrificing being a dad to my girls or a husband to my wife.
I love the priorities. Yeah. Now, obviously, it's a cool journey for sure, and you've experienced quite a bit. You've seen a lot over the years in this space. What advice do you have for people that are looking to get more involved in the industry?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people that have asked, like, "Hey, I want to get involved in this," and I always say the same thing, and that is just you have to put in the time. There is no shortcut to being in the fantasy industry. And the great thing about fantasy is that it can just start out as a hobby and you just continue doing it and then you can do it. But someone who wants to get in the industry now, I would say niche down, meaning find like fantasy. There are so many avenues of fantasy now. You got best ball, you've got dynasty, you got Debbie, you got DFS, you got DFS 2.0 prediction markets, player props, and then just your traditional fantasy. But find whatever market that you're especially interested in and niche down in it. And then from there, so many people try to get just an overall fantasy aspect, and it's really tough to do. So you got to do two things. You have to be like a first on the scene as far as a new platform. We're talking TikTok, whatever that is, figuring out the algorithm there. Or you've got to niche down. You got to provide valuable content to people that are looking for it. What kind of content are you providing that is solving a problem? Someone that has a rookie draft coming up, someone that is in a super flex league right now. Honestly, like the hot things, and I'm got bit by the bug too, are these guillotine chop leagues. That's kind of the new format. So be the guy or the girl that is going to be the person that people look to as the subject matter expert, is what we call it, the SME in that field.
I love it. It's great advice, and it's no surprise. I mean, the fantasy community is amazing. If you witnessed it, if you experienced it, a lot of incredibly supportive people, a lot of great people. What have these relationships that you've established over the years meant to you?
Oh, everything. We talk about in real life, because sometimes you meet people in real life for the first time, and after you've talked to them for on a daily basis for so long. So I feel blessed. The people that I talk to so much, that mean so much to me, they're good people. And every industry has their bad apples. Fantasy industry is not immune to that. But having the people that are in my corner that I know are just good people, and seeing them succeed has been great. And the rising tide lifts all boats sort of thing. It's been awesome to see that and be a part of their journey.
And obviously events play a big role in it.
Yeah.
You mentioned FSTA, going to those back in the day for you, I'm sure really set the stage for a lot of core relationships you have. But obviously there's Scott Fish live drafts this, nowadays, and the Fantasy Football Expo is super special to a lot of people. Talk about your experience with the Expo this year, and if you've gone to any SFB live drafts, what have those been like for you?
Yeah, we were actually trying to host an SFB live draft here in Nashville when I was with Roto Grinders, and so Travis came out, and Travis May came out and looked at the space, and ended up not working. So I haven't been to a live SFB. Yeah, I love Scott. I think what he's done has been, again, something. I call it the unofficial start of fantasy football season. But going to the live events for, back in the day for DraftKings and FanDuel, going to the FSTA, it reminded me a lot of the FF Expo, what it is, because, and it's a lot cheaper than those other two things. Because in order to get invited to the, to live final, you got to qualify for it. And it typically takes money. And some people put a lot of money to that, and they don't end up qualifying for it. And then the FSTA, you're paying, or FSGA, you're paying a pretty hefty annual fee. And if not, you're trying to come, you're paying a hefty fee to get in. And the Expo is nowhere near that as far as price. And it's just people that love what you love, and they care about what you care about, and you can have conversations. You can go up to strangers and talk to them, and it's not going to be awkward. If you go to any sort of local regional event, even if it's sports based, and you go up and you ask them about, whatever, it could be a little awkward. But a perfect example was at the Expo that first night in Canton. We're there, and there's a Cleveland Browns watch party, and I'm talking to them, and I said, listen, as a Titans fan, I empathize with the Browns. And I said, but at least you have, locally, the region, at least a lot of Browns fans are also Ohio State fans. And I asked this lady, I said, is that who you cheer for? She said, no, cheer for Bowling Green. and I was like, oh, and then guy next to her said her son used to play for Bowling Green, and now he plays for the Browns. And I said, you're Harold Fannon's mom? And she said, Yes. And so I immediately called JJ over there, and I said, JJ, you gotta come over here. This is Harold Fannon's mom. And we laugh because he mentioned something about the way that Harold walks, the whole duck foot thing that came out. And she's like, that's how I taught him how to run like that way. You don't know which way he's running on routes. But the fact that everybody in that place knew who Harold Fannin was.
Yeah.
Because they had dynasty drafts. Harold Fannin, he was not even on the radar for, like, we call it the normie fantasy football crowd. The people that had yet to be drafted. But everybody knew who Harold Fannin was. Everybody knew that he was like the next big thing on the Browns. And that's kind of the people that you're surrounding yourself when you go to the Expo.
I love it. Yeah, a great place for community. And speaking of community, you were involved in a community industry league, like a fantasy football industry league called Stacked. It's been really cool to see a lot of big names, big analysts in there competing for charity. At $10,000 in charity, $5,000 going to Fantasy Cares, $5,000 going to the charity of choice of the person who wins this league. Exciting stuff. What was it that made you want to participate in this league with these icons?
Yeah, like I felt blessed. JJ, he has a lot of leagues. I have a lot of leagues, but I love industry leagues. And so he wasn't able to draft. So say, Jeremy, he said, hey, how would you like to? I was like, yes, I would love to. Are you kidding me? I would. I love fantasy football, and playing fantasy football for charity is awesome. So, at that point, my daughters, we were watching a YouTube video a day about St. Jude's. As far as the charity goes, it was a guy named Ryan Trahan, and he was donating. Had a big donation to St. Jude's every day, and so my girls were getting into it, and so I got to tell them, hey, I'm playing in this draft, and if I win, the money's going to go to St. Jude. So they got into it then. So it's been fun, and I hope that it all works out, and I hope I win, and I hope that money goes to St. Jude. But regardless, if any sort of nonprofit is benefiting from fantasy football, we're all winning.
Absolutely, for sure. Now this division, this league, there are some people that are winning. Dave Richard and Sigmund Bloom, both 8-2, looking great. Chris Harris 7-3, continuing to have a great season. Kendall Valenzuela 6-4. She's had a great start, coming off a loss, and you're facing her this next week.
Yeah.
Ben Gretsch is just fighting. Andrew Cooper fighting, both at 5-5. You're there at 4-6 with Andy Behrens at 4-6. There isn't a last place penalty.
Trying to avoid that
trying to avoid that. Greg Branos was 1-8. Now he is 2-8.
I saw he got the win.
His opponent. Yeah.
Yes.
So Greg is trying to get out of that. Justin Boone's been cursed with a really tough schedule this year, 3-7. John Daigle 4-6. Jake Seeley 4-6. So a lot of teams in that 4-6, 5-5 mark. So playoffs are a real option for you. Yeah, hopefully that works out for you. Looking at your matchup again, coming off of a tough loss to Jake Seeley, that was rough. But you have Kendall Valenzuela ahead of you. Obviously, got to focus on that one. What's it been like competing with some of these people and just dealing with the day to day, like the waiver wires and that kind of stuff? And there's been trades that have been going down, all that.
It's been it's. I feel like I'm taking to school. Ooh, Travis Hunter, season-ending knee injury. So there you go. No more Travis Hunter. I thought we'd get him back, but no. It has been eye-opening as far as, like, you mentioned Ben Gretsch, and I know Ben from Ben used to be the editor for Fantasy Insiders for me back in the day. So I've worked with Ben. I know whatever he does, whatever he puts his mind to, like, he's going all in. So this guy is making all sorts of moves. The thing that has gotten me is that I still am not used to the Tuesday ads. And we do them early, but it's just like, it is totally against anything I've ever done. And I've never had Tuesday ads. And so I'm always like, I get the notification that waivers have been processed. I'm like, oh gosh, I missed it again. And then I'll put it in for the next time. So that's why I have more money probably than anybody in the league, but it's been good. Dave he sniped me on HN. I was so excited to get HN. Didn't happen. So I got Nico, and then I had to pick between Neighbors and Amon-Ra, and I picked Neighbors, and that did not work out.
No.
So, I got Nico, Neighbors, and Wilson, and then I picked Walker before he got the next pick with Cook. So I chose poorly, and then I had the injury bug. I thought I might get a little lucky when I traded Garrett Wilson to Jake Seeley for Justin Jefferson and Chris Olave. So traded Nico and Garrett Wilson for that, and then Garrett Wilson immediately gets hurt. So I thought maybe I've got a chance. But I just drafted a bunch of guys that they just have not hit their stride. I don't have that one guy that's really kind of anchoring the team, and it's tough. I'm hoping I can get some spike weeks out of these guys so I can maybe make the playoffs. And then all you're asking is to make the playoffs, because you never know what's going to happen those weeks 15, 16, and 17.
For sure. Yeah. And I think obviously, Neighbors is supposed to be that guy that anchors your team. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he did. He did well at first.
Yeah.
I liked my strategy. But looking back, it was just like, oh, that was brutal. Like Calvin Ridley. I have so much Calvin Ridley out there in best ball and everything else. He's been brutal. Pacheco, Golden, it's all been really tough. Kenneth Walker not being the goal line back. Yeah. So I've just got a bunch of mid players. Like, really, that's what, the kids say mid, meaning mediocre, average. That's my team right now. And I'm just trying to find some sort of spark. Like Travis Etienne, I have as much Bashal Tootin in best ball as I do Travis Etienne, but this league was a league where I could, get some of the guys where I didn't have a lot of exposure to. So maybe he's the guy that will help me this week. But I look at Kendall's team, and her team is stacked. So
yeah, she's loaded.
No pun intended. We'll see what happens.
For sure. I know it is one of those things. Like you said, the Ridley, like Pacheco, Golden, I thought would have a good year too.
Yeah.
But I love your strategy. I mean, this is brilliant. I mean, you took May and Williams. Like, I entered so many drafts this year where I'm like, before I made a different choice, I thought Drake May, Williams, what a perfect duo. Get them late round, which obviously, fits the brand. But perfect scenario for late round quarterbacks. It's just, again, I feel like that Neighbors injury kind of, it hits home for me. In two of my biggest leagues, I lost Neighbors. So I feel you, but make the playoffs, see what happens. We'll go from there.
Right. Exactly.
Waivers wise this week, waivers, Luther Burden was the biggest waiver wire ad at $4. But Jake Seeley, he got Joe Burrow at zero.
See, I thought that was and that was when I was like, man, I've already got Drake May and Caleb Williams, and it's not a super flex league. But I thought, they're saying he's going to play week 14. It's around playoff times go. And if you don't have a quarterback, I mean, he was number 5, as far as being that fifth quarter overall quarterback pick. And so if he kind of ramps up in week 14, he's fully ready to go. I don't know. You might have some sit-start decisions in the semifinals and finals.
Yeah, and hopefully it works out, because I'd love to see Joe Burrow back in action.
Yeah,
especially if you make a playoffs in a fantasy league and you had Joe Burrow stashed on IR, good for you, because that might work out really well for you. Probably most teams that had him that invested early on for him, they're probably in trouble, but maybe they picked up somebody and filled the gap. So with this league, looking around the league, is there a manager that you want to beat the most out of anybody here, and which roster does scare you the most?
Yeah, like I said, I know Gretsch well. We run in the same circles, and just having his pelt, on my trophy wall is nice. So that would be the guy. I also have a good relationship with John Daigle. So those are always friendly ones. I don't have a problem with anybody in this league. Everybody's a good person in this league. I used to listen to Sigmund Bloom on local sports radio, and he would answer questions. I love Joe Bryant there at Football Guys. So,
Yeah.
I don't have anybody specifically that I would like as a rival, but beating Ben, Gretsch, and Daigle are good with me because those are like friendly rivalries.
So at this stage, who do you think is going to win it? Outside of yourself making this heroic comeback, like who's the team to beat?
Yeah, I think this. I think there are some dark horses here for sure. Gretsch might be one of them, but it's tough to look past Dave Richard. Like his squad that he's got going. It's really tough to get past the HN and Amon Ra pairing. So we'll see what happens. Look at Greg's roster. He was on the opposite end, but he had Jamar Chase and then McConkey and McBride and got Travion as well. Like he's just out of the running, but it's just like bad luck on his part. Cause I felt like he had some pieces that it's going to be that stereotypical, the ones that wins the toilet bowl. So I'll put my money though on the other guys and see what happens.
I love it. Well, before we close things out, let's do some rapid fire. I'll just throw out some questions.
Okay.
Give me what first comes to mind. What do you enjoy most about what you're doing in the industry right now?
Again, I love the business side of things. So I let JJ make the content, and I try to get that content to as many people as possible, whether it be email, social. We do the Late Round Fantasy Football show now that hits the airwaves and part of the NFL Podcast Network. So that's what I enjoy, is seeing the success of late round, meaning that more people are consuming JJ's content.
Love it. What does live a little mean to you?
Yeah, live a little was the it was the best ball slogan that I had back a few years ago, where people were just so tethered to ADPs. Like they couldn't make a pick because it was a round or two before. So I would say live a little. And then someone won the $2 million. And after they won, they tagged me in a tweet and said, live a little. So that became a thing where people would win these tournaments and they would tag me with live a little. So live a little just means, hey, take a chance and don't just be tethered to ADP because everybody else thinks that, especially in the later rounds. Take a chance on people that have high upside.
What a great motto to live by. It's outside of fantasy football. I love it.
Exactly.
What's the best part of being a girl dad?
Oh man, I could say so much about this, but I feel like I was created to be a girl dad. I would joke about only having boys when I was little, and now that I have girls, I wouldn't have any other way. So I enjoy just all their quirks. They make me laugh. All three are different. I'm sure as they get into the middle school and high school phase, I might change my tune just a little bit during that period of time. But the best thing is just being with them and just feeling so loved and taken care of.
I love it. Yeah, our daughter just turned 13, so I'm with you. Girl dad for life, man. What are your favorite hobbies and activities outside of sports?
Pretty much just sports. As far as like my hobbies and activities, I love pickleball. Like that's nice. The one, but it's still part in the sports thing. But I still play pickleball. I try to play once a week or once every few weeks with the guys at Roto Grinders that we played with. So we have our foursome, and that's been fun for me.
Nice. All-time favorite TV show?
The Office.
Okay. How about a movie?
I don't know. Pass. Like I've got so many movies, but nothing. Like I used to like watch like Austin Powers like back in the day and quote that, and now it's all about like TV shows. So I don't really have a favorite movie because I always like something new unless it's The Office reruns.
How about a sports movie? You got anything in the sports realm?
Yeah, sports movie. I love all the sports movies, but the one that we've started to make a yearly thing for my family is on July 4th. We watch The Sandlot.
Nice. And
so that would be the sports movie for me.
Perfect. How about an all-time favorite meal, snack, beverage?
Yeah, I love Coke Zero. And then if you follow me on Twitter X, you know that part of the brand don't even know how it happened at this point, but it's Dairy Queen blizzards. And so when someone sees a blizzard out there, they'll tag me with a photo. So shout out to Dairy Queen. I wish we could get a sponsorship, but we call them blizzies. So yeah, that'd be the number one.
That's nice. Is that a snack or is that a meal?
That's just like a dessert to go to. Like I love smoking meats. So I got a big green egg, and I love the science of it. So ribs, pulled pork, that sort of stuff. That's my favorite, especially during the summer.
Now I'm getting hungry. How about an all-time favorite band or musician?
I'm going to go with my roommate in college. His name is Mickey Echo, Mikkyeekko. He wrote a song called Stay that he featured with Rihanna. Now he's writing for Teddy Swims. I just like anything he does, I'm going to consume. So he's my guy. I love his, in college his name was Steve. Now it's Mickey Echo, but he's crushing it.
Love it. How about a favorite vacation you've ever been on and a bucket list travel destination?
Yeah, so I actually just checked off the bucket list travel location as far as we went to Hawaii this past year. So that was probably it. I would say, we went to California with the girls and checked San Diego off the list. So the next thing, the place that I've never been before, but it feels like it should be on a bucket list of some sort, and that's the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I've been to Arizona a million times, have not been, but
I've never been to the Grand Canyon. I've been so many other different places, and Grand Canyon would probably next on that list.
Love it. Well, it's a sight to see. So good answers for sure. At this stage, what are you most grateful for? And you name some of the people that have had a big impact on you during your journey here in this fantasy industry.
Yeah, gratitude. We talked about Hawaii. They've got a word called mahalo for that. It means gratitude. I'm so grateful, so thankful. I'm thankful to a family for letting me do this. Those girls that I have, and then guys like Dan Bach, who gave me that original shot. It was someone who was instrumental and still one of my closest friends in the industry. And JJ, new boss, from old boss to new boss. JJ has really, like, it's not like any small feat. He took a chance and went from being a solopreneur to having someone who worked for him. And so, just thankful to JJ. I love the guys that I do the Swellcast with every week. So Peter Overzet, Davis Maddock, Dan Gasper, those guys, just the community that we're that we're in. Some of the guys in the industry, we talk about the fantasy footballers. I always like talking to them. They're always really helpful because we're always kind of a step behind where they are. They're up here in that top tier. They established the run guys, Drew Dinkmeyer, Michael Leone, two of my best friends in the world. So those are some of the people that I love. I know I've left some out, but man, they just mean the world to me.
I love it. Fantastic people all around for sure. Can you tell listeners and viewers where to find you?
Yeah, you can find me at David Kitchen X on Twitter. Maybe one day I'll get the David Kitchen handle on X. Right now it's there. You can find me in the late round Discord that we're in. You can find me on the Swolecast, and right now you can also find me on Fridays. We do the late round fantasy football show, so that's when JJ and I just have fun. He nerds out on a little bit of data, and I try to bring some of the entertainment value to the show as a normie, as a fellow fantasy football normie. I just bring that to the show.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, my man. Wish you all the best. Wish you best of luck in Stacked. Hopefully you can make a miracle comeback.
Yeah, we'll make a little run, a little late season run. Yeah,
let's do it. As long as I don't see you on the last place episode show.
Yeah,
got a deal.
I really hope not to be there. So not only am I cheering for myself to win, I'm cheering for certain people to also lose.
No Absolutely, that's fantasy.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. Until next time, be sure to follow and subscribe to all of FFU's social media accounts